Joining me on the line, Ken Livingstone, former Mayor of London. Ken, good morning to you.
Hi there.
Hope you're well.
Yes.
I mean,
Nice
you will have seen yourself written about in the Telegraph today. It's their editorial. It says, others are furious about the conduct of Mr Corbyn's friend and ally, Ken Livingstone, who said Naz Shah's comments were not anti-Semitic. Now, she's profusely apologised for them, said she made a mistake. If she's apologised for them, presumably she acknowledges that they were anti-Semitic. Do you still maintain they were not?
No, she's a deep critic of Israel and its policies. Her remarks were over the top. But she's not anti-Semitic. I've been in the Labour Party for 47 years. I've never heard anyone say anything anti-Semitic. I've heard a lot of criticism of the state of Israel and its abuse of the Palestinians, but I've never heard someone be anti-Semitic.
She talked about relocating Israel to America. She talked about what Hitler did being legal. And she talked about the Jews rallying, and she used the word Jews, not Israelis or Israel. You didn't find that to be anti-Semitic?
No, it's completely over the top. It's not anti-Semitic. I mean, let's remember, when Hitler won his election in 1932, his policy then was that Jews should be moved to Israel. He was supporting Zionism, and his boy went mad and ended up killing 6 million Jews. But the simple fact in all of this is that Naz made these comments at a time when there's another brutal Israeli attack on the Palestinians. And there's one stark fact that virtually no one in the British media ever reports. In almost all these conflicts, the death toll is usually between 60 and 100 Palestinians killed for every Israeli. Now, any other country doing that would be accused of war crimes, but it's like we have a double standard about the policies of the Israeli government.
You see, some people will say there's a double standard operating in the Labour Party, that what's really a flagrant kind of anti-Semitism, a deeply embedded systemic anti-Semitism, is hidden behind a mask of anti-Zionism or criticism of Israeli foreign policy. But that's not what it really is. It's really, as John Rentoul, the political commentator for The Independent, said on my programme, using a phrase that I would hesitate to use, but he used this morning, he said these are Jew haters, long-term Jew haters, and they can use criticism of Israel as a cloak behind which to mask that sentiment.
He's lying. As I said, I've never heard anyone say anything anti-Semitic, but there's been a very well-orchestrated campaign by the Israel lobby to smear anybody who criticises Israeli policy as anti-Semitic. I mean, I had to put up with 35 years of this, being denounced, because back in 1981, we were campaigning to say the Labour Party should recognise the Palestine Liberation Organisation. And we accused anti-Semitism, but then 12 years later, the leader of the PLO's on the White House lawn shaking hands with the Prime Minister of Israel.
How could it be, therefore, that you would think that it was all right for Naz Shah to mention Hitler at all? I mean, if her comments were anti-Zionist or anti-Israeli foreign policy, why would that be part of the argument? Why would Hitler's name even come into it?
I don't think she should have done that. I think, as I said, she was over the top. But we need to step back and look at the anger there is at the sort of double standards. We've just had nearly a decade of painful sanctions against Iran. We invaded Iraq because we thought they were going to get nuclear weapons. But Israel's had nuclear weapons for 40 years at least. And there's never any sanctions, never any complaint by anyone in the West. It's these double standards that make people angry.
What do you think over the top really means? When I say, was it anti-Semitic, and you say, no, it wasn't, categorically no, anyone who says it was is a liar, but it was over the top. Over the top of what?
Well, I mean, basically think of anti-Semitism and racism as exactly the same thing. And criticising the government of South Africa, which is pretty unpleasant and corrupt, doesn't make me a racist. And it doesn't make me anti-Semitic when I criticise the brutal mistreatment by the Israeli government. And let's look at, someone who's Jewish who actually said something almost very similar to what Naz has just said. Albert Einstein, when the first leader of Likud, the governing party now in Israel, came to America, he warned American politicians, don't talk to this man because he's too similar to the fascists we fought in the Second World War. Now, if Naz or myself said that today, we'd be denounced as anti-Semitic. But that was Albert Einstein.
Lord Levy, you know, a senior Labour peer, I think you'll agree. I said to him, I've just spoken to him on the programme, and I said I'm going to be speaking to Ken Livingstone. What would you like me to say to him? And he said, in saying that what Hitler did was legal, in talking about moving all Jews from Israel to the United States, and of course there are more Jews in Israel now than in any other country in the world, Lord Levy says Ken Livingstone, in saying that those things are not anti-Semitic, and I quote, must be living on another planet. Vanessa, will you ask him, is he living on another planet? And if he is, which planet is it?
Well, I mean, after Jeremy became leader, I was having a chat with Michael, and he said he was very worried because one of his friends who was Jewish had come to him and said, the election of Jeremy Corbyn is exactly the same as the first step to the rise in power of Adolf Hitler. So, frankly, there's been an attempt to smear Jeremy Corbyn and his associates as anti-Semitic from the moment he became leader. But, you know, the simple fact is we have the right to criticise what is one of the most brutal regimes that's going in the way it treats its Palestinians.